A gamble is a risk, the clue is in the name. But there are some people so brave, so bold, and so clever that they have found faultless ways to game the system, and who knows, maybe if you pay close enough attention to their stories and methods, you could master their tricks too. If you've got the skills, gambling is something you can turn from a hobby into a career. And the legendary Keith Taft did that with his game of choice, blackjack, even finding himself included into the Blackjack Hall of Fame in 2004. But Keith didn't succeed all alone. Mr. Taft had a little help from his friend George. Weighing about 15 pounds and constructed from several individual pieces all about the size of an average book, George was not a man but rather a wearable computer. Confused? Let's rewind the timeline a touch. Keith wasn't just a cheater. He did have skills. A graduate in both music and physics, Taft would go on to be a professional teacher in both fields and even achieve a master's degree in physics. But in 1969, he made an inadvertent foray into the field of gambling, something he had never once had a taste for. His family and he were headed on a vacation, and while passing through Reno, they briefly stopped at Harrah's Auto Museum, where a staff member offered Taft some free lucky bucks to play at a blackjack table. Thinking little of it, Taft happily took a few tips as how to play the game from the staff member and then proceeded to play, walking away with a small profit of $3.50. That win triggered a long dormant memory. He recalled hearing of the book Beat the Dealer by Edward O. Thorpe, an intricate detailing of Thorpe's supposed flawless technique to beating casinos. Intrigued, Taft bought himself a copy, and soon his new interest with blackjack grew into an obsession. But despite teaching himself rudimentary cheating tactics, such as counting cards, he never once won. So it was time to up his game. He put his math and physics skills to the test and built George, which he would wear on his chest and operate via switches and buttons with his toes. The computer would count cards for Keith, and as it was controlled by his feet, freed his hands up to play the game, stirring no one's suspicions. It worked, and before long, Keith and his robot accomplice found themselves on a hot winning streak. But tragedy struck this amateur criminal down when he made the same fatal flaw so many do. He got carried away. He upgraded the machine to have a video recorder that could see the dealer's whole card anytime the dealer slipped up enough to reveal it. The authorities soon figured out what Keith was up to, and he found himself facing some pretty heavy fines. Poor George was sadly retired. But he's not the only one to try and trick a casino. Gonzalo Garcia Pelayo had been an aspiring filmmaker, but his dreams of filmmaking were swiftly reduced to dust when the film school he was enrolled in unexpectedly closed down. At a loss at what to do with his life, his career pivoted to the music industry, and he took up an all-new hobby, roulette. But one day, when playing at Casino Gran Madrid, Pelayo discovered certain numbers would show up with more frequency than others. Intrigued, he started recording the outcome of spins in order to figure out whether there was weight to his suspicion, a task he recruited his 2 children into helping him with. While they collected data, he created computer software that would enable him to analyze the results. In doing so, he was able to determine which wheels may be biased and which numbers occurred more often. Pelayo figured out that while no player could use this info to win every spin, they could use it to give themselves a 6% advantage. It was time to put that theory into practice. The operation grew into a proper mini-crime family with more Pelayos recruited. A family member would hit up each table they had proven to be biased, sometimes as often as 6 times a week. Every family member at every table would bet on the numbers their data proved to be favored. Though they had some losses at first, they committed to their plan, and pretty soon their minuscule $2,200 bankroll grew to a staggering $100,000. There were stumbles along the way, including an $80,000 loss on one occasion, but it was clear the system mostly worked. But rumors that something strange was going on rippled up through the headquarters of the Casino Gran Madrid. Worried about the big profits made by the Pelayos, floor personnel began monitoring each of them every night. Figuring out what was going on, the casino attempted to ban the family. One thing led to another, with everyone going to court. Thankfully for the Pelayo operation, the judge sided with them, claiming that the exploitation of a biased wheel was not cheating, rather just a form of advantage play. Regardless, the family found themselves forced out of playing at the Casino Gran Madrid because a change in the wheels meant their tactic no longer worked. But can you cheat at every game in a casino? What about throwing dice? Dominic Lorigio is well known among the gambling scene for being one of the finest craps players to ever play the game. He is also known for his masterful skill at getting the dice to land favorably almost every time. But just how does he do it? Lorigio's theory was that if he could maintain the rotation of the dice and ensure the dice were as close to the back wall as possible, they would not be able to move very much, which drastically reduces the chance of them straying and landing on 7. This technique has been attempted by many players before him, and while excessive practicing ensured they could do it with 1 die, nailing it with 2 had proven elusive. But Lorigio was determined and pioneered a unique grip that made the dice stick together during flight, thus landing closer together. After a lot of practice, he hit Vegas, where he became known as both the Dominator and the Man with the Golden Arm. And on one occasion, he went 53 minutes without 7ing out and won a colossal $27,000 in a single sitting. Technically, Lorigio's method is not illegal, nor is it cheating, though many casinos do frown upon others attempting to master it for themselves. Clearly thinking it was best not to upset this master of the game, some casinos decided to make him a friend and even hire him to help them identify other controlled shooters. Lorigio refuses to identify as a gambler, insisting a gambler has only luck on their side, whereas he has skill. In the video and internet age, there are all new games in which the gamblers and thrill seekers of the world can cheat or trick their way to success. For John Kane and Andrew Nestor, the game of choice was video poker. And it wasn't Lorigio-style skill and practice that led to their success, but rather the exploitation of a computer bug. As John Kane sat at a Game King unit, one of the more popular video poker machines in Las Vegas, a member of the casino security team watched him on the security cameras with intrigue. Why? Because Kane had just won $8,200, and just before that, he had won $10,400. In fact, he had won big jackpots 6 more times before that. Security thought that there was no way anyone could be this lucky, and that something had to be going on. Deciding to trust their instincts, the casino team had a formidable member of the security team sent to prevent Kane from leaving. But how did this all begin? Kane had long been a fan of Game King, if not a winner, annually losing up to hundreds of thousands of dollars to the game. Playing on a Game King unit in Fremont 3 months before the aforementioned incident, he hit the cash out button but noticed the candle at the top of the unit lit up as the screen locked up, offering a jackpot of $1,000. Something was clearly wrong with the machine as Kane hadn't even played a new hand. Kane knew he must have accidentally stumbled on a glitch that offered up cash, and he was determined to find the exact combination of button presses required. Teaming up with his friend Andrew Nestor, they both sat at a Game King unit in a casino and began trying out every different combination of play possible. At long last, they cracked the formula. The machines would let you choose the base level of your wagers, and at the low-limit Fremont machines, there were 6 dominations ranging from 1 to 50 cents per turn. But under the right circumstances, Kane and Nestor figured you could fudge the machine so as to switch denomination levels in retrospect. This means you could play at a mere 1 cent per credit for hours, while you waited for a good hand to turn up. At that point, they retrospectively fiddle their input so as to seem as if they had played at 50 cents a credit. This would trick the machine into rewarding them a payout matching this higher denomination. For a long time, the pair got away with hopping from casino to casino, exploiting the bug and winning big after investing small. But Kane was finally caught when he pushed his luck a little too far and won big 8 times in a row. Tricking the system at one game is one thing, but that wasn't enough for the legendary Ida Summers, known as the Vegas Vixen. She stands tall as one of the most successful Las Vegas cheats in all of gambling history. Working in the 1960s, her tactic of choice was the myriad of card games in which she indulged in something we now know as hand mucking. This is when a cheating gambler would remove a card from play by sneaking it up their sleeve. only to slip it back out later in the game when it's most beneficial. Regarded as both charming and beautiful, the Vegas vixen was able to distract the dealer from ever noticing what she was doing by constantly engaging them in riveting small talk and flirtation. With time, she grew so confident with her ability for deception that she even began bringing packs of her own cards into casinos and slipping some of those into play when she required. From here, she began bringing preset decks of hands she knew would guarantee her a win, that she would swap her actual dealt hand for. But that was when her charms and smile were no longer enough of a deterrent. Casino officials noticed her absurdly high win rate and, rightly suspicious something was happening, began investigating. To continue getting away with it, she started to occasionally lose on purpose and would even sometimes hire men to go in and play the game for her, using her technique and then splitting the winnings. But when several casinos in the area met to discuss potentially problematic customers, they noticed they all had one in common: the Vegas Vixen. All of them upped their security, and she was finally caught in the act of swapping a deck for one of her own. Which of the tricksters did you think is the most impressive? And have you ever gotten away with an impressive scam? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, and you'll be the first to know when a new video arrives. Thanks for watching.